I'd have to have a conversation about what role he wanted to play if the baby turned out to be his. I finally told Landon that Thursday night after he got home from work. I waited until after dinner, until we were both relaxed and settled in for the evening, then I just came out with it. I told him I was pregnant and that there was a chance the baby might not be his because of what had happened with Joel at that party. His reaction was not what I expected at all. I thought he'd be angry about me breaking our protection rule or hurt that I'd potentially gotten pregnant by another man. Instead, he just got really quiet and asked me what I wanted to do about it. When I told him I wasn't sure yet, he said he'd support whatever decision I made, but he needed to know if I was planning to keep the baby before he could figure out his own feelings. The conversation with Joel was even harder. When I told him what was happening, his first reaction was complete panic. He started talking about how he wasn't ready to be a father, how this wasn't what he'd signed up for when we decided to take our relationship to the next level. Then he asked if I was sure the baby was his, and when I explained that I couldn't be certain, he seemed both relieved and somehow more anxious at the same time. So, I scheduled an amniocentesis to determine paternity. The procedure itself was terrifying. They stick this long needle through your abdomen into the amniotic sac to extract fluid for testing. The waiting period for the results was absolutely torture. When the results finally came back, I got the call while I was at work. The baby was Joel's. I remember sitting in my car in the parking lot after hanging up with the doctor, just staring at my phone and trying to process what this meant for my life. I called Joel first to tell him the news. His reaction was not what I expected at all. Instead of panicking like I thought he would, he asked if we could meet up to talk about our options. He said he'd been doing a lot of thinking over the past 2 weeks and had some things he wanted to discuss with me. When we met that evening, Joel told me he'd realized he actually did want to be a father, and if I was willing to keep the baby, he wanted to try to make a real relationship work between us. But he said he couldn't handle the complexity of co-parenting with me while I was still living with Landon. He wanted me to choose, either commit to building a life with him and the baby or follow through on my original plan to terminate. That night, I had the hardest conversation of my life with Landon. I told him about Joel's offer and about the impossible choice I was facing. I expected him to fight for me, to tell me he'd support whatever decision I made. Instead, he just nodded and said he'd figured this might happen eventually. Landon said he'd always known that what Joel and I had was different from what we had, more intense and passionate. He said he could see how much I lit up when I talked about Joel, and while it hurt him to admit it, he could also see that Joel was offering me something he couldn't, the chance to build something completely new and exciting. What he said next completely floored me. Landon told me he thought I should go with Joel, not because he didn't love me or want to be with me, but because he could see that's where my heart was really pulling me. He said he'd rather let me go pursue what might be the love of my life than keep me in a relationship where I'd always wonder what I'd given up. So, I made my decision. I told Joel I wanted to keep the baby and try to build a real relationship with him. I told Landon I was moving out and ending our romantic relationship, and I started making plans to completely restructure my life around this new reality I was choosing. For about 3 weeks, everything felt perfect. Joel and I found a cute apartment together, started talking about baby names and nursery themes, and began planning for our future as a family. I felt like I was finally living authentically instead of constantly